swing that mallet down, I think was like a pretty iconic moment, because obviously like you're starting to think about, you know, Iron Man making his first suit in that very same style. Hi, I'm Dominique Thorne, and this is how I became Ironheart. I originally auditioned for the role of Shuri in Black Panther 1, back when I was a sophomore in college. I would be, with my full academic schedule, be making at minimum like 3-4 audition tapes a week, just sending them out. Went down to Atlanta, had an in-person like audition camera test. Final round was in LA, and that's where I met Ryan, I met Chadwick and read with him. And they had expressed like how much they would like to work with me, but the only comment that they had really given me was that I didn't have the experience that they knew I would need to carry a film in that way. Then got my credits up. I did my first film ever, which was If Beale Street Could Talk, followed by Judas and the Black Messiah. Got a phone call telling me that they're adapting the Ironheart comics and that they are gonna do it through a TV series on Disney+. And he asked if I'd be interested in playing her. There was no audition. It was the phone call. So yeah, I said yes. I remember hearing the news about Chadwick's passing like later that evening. And that sort of eclipses everything. What does this mean for that cast as not just people playing characters, but as individuals with real relationships and connections and love for this person that is now passed? How do they stomach the news of what the future is, only to learn such a heartbreaking curveball like that? How do you reckon with both of those incredibly intense and incredibly valid feelings? My sole focus truly was about how do I support my castmates, you know? That's like one of the first lessons that I was taught as an actor is this is about the ensemble, it's about your scene partner, it's about the other person in front of you. And this was such a humbling way to go back to that lesson. First time I heard about the role of Riri Williams, I had to be a sophomore or a junior in college. That iconic imagery of Riri with the huge fro and the helmet under her arm and the red crop top. That's the first time I heard about Ironheart. I think when I first heard about Riri being adapted, I was curious and also super hopeful to see how they would take on telling this story that is very different from a lot of the other stories that they've told. I'm seeing streets that look like the street that I lived on. I'm seeing friends that look like the friends that I have. And it was exciting. You go into it knowing that you're going to get the story of a genius, and not just a genius, but a super genius. But it was so energizing to me to see that brilliance wrapped up in a packaging that was atypical from what we've seen. I remember being told that water is a key element in this film. Although I was aware of how to swim, I had to take a swim test to graduate college, so I definitely could swim to survive. I wanted to be way more comfortable in the water than I was. I had a couple classes a week, just getting on my breath hold, getting on proper technique, proper form, all of that, and really training my lungs. That was the biggest thing for me. I definitely wanted to be over prepared or over competent to play somebody who was not competent. And wearing that suit for the first time, that was the greatest entry point into who Riri is, how she moves through the world, how she thinks. And so to see how she was able to create such a smart design where I have full mobility, full range of motion, all my joints are free, even though this is this huge, bulky iron suit. The suit was definitely one of the first things that I was able to get a very clear understanding of, okay, this is definitely helping to establish a bar. This is the first thing that we're really getting to see from her. A lot of people compare it to football gear, but it definitely understanding what is meant in the comics when she talks about this suit of armor around her heart, because that's exactly what it feels like. Super snug and fitted in a way that distracts from how big and large and bulky it is. It's almost like a second skin in a lot of ways, just a very heavy, very deadly second skin. It was a very revitalizing first day, I have to say, because between getting the news about playing this role and arriving to set to shoot your first scene, so many things had happened. And I felt like I was doing so much other than acting. But I think that by the time we got there to actually shoot this scene, and it's with Miss Bassett, you walk onto set and you're in the throne room, and so I'm truly feeling like I'm in Wakanda for the first time. You see like those iconic statues in the background, you see the Dora Milaje in the foreground, and you're walking the halls, and here comes Queen Ramonda with the crown on, looking as regal as ever. And they say action, and she starts her lines, and I'm like, oh, yeah. This is what I came to do. And working with someone like Angela Bassett, who is so present and so connected, what a blessing it was to have this person in front of me be so grounded. It teed me up, I think, to maintain that kind of presence for the rest of the shoot. A normal day on Wakanda Forever would look like, so you get picked up around 4, get to set, then the first stop, trailer, drop all your stuff, then hair and makeup. So usually in makeup for about 40 minutes or so, then go over to hair. And it really depends for Riri, because on Wakanda, she had the slick back braids, which were put into 2 styles. So let's assume it's a Monday, then that means on the Friday, I would have just gotten braided. So by the time I get to hair this time, I don't have much to do. It's usually just to touch up the edges and slick the hairs down, tie that up, go back to the trailer, change clothes, maybe eat breakfast. Maybe at this point it's about 7 or 8 or so. Head to rehearsal for a little bit with Ryan and whoever else from the cast is in the scene. Then after that rehearsal, you have a rehearsal that shows the crew what's going down, what we're about to do. Head back to the trailer, change into the costume for the day. And then when they're ready for you, they knock on that door and travel you up to set. Then the adventure begins. A lot of the stunt training that I got was more so for Ironheart than Wakanda Forever. So I'd spend time there either learning fights or just running drills or testing out whatever new wire gag they want to do. Maybe after that, I'd have a fitting or something, or I'd go back to the hair trailer and do a hair test for another style that we were working on. Filming in the suits, baby. That's definitely a point where I was glad that I took the time to get that endurance training up, because I later learned when filming Ironheart, everyone definitely waited until we wrapped on Wakanda Forever to tell me how much the suit weighed. And now I am screaming it from the rooftops. But for me, a lot of the work that I did in the suit was primarily in wires. Truly just a lot of core work to be able to not only support yourself, but support an additional 52 pounds on you. Before you can get into the wires, you have to get rigged, so you have to put on a harness. Most of my days I'm in the suit, I'm in the wires, and so I'd have a base layer of clothing on, which is just workout pants and top. Then I'd put the harness on, which would probably be a little bottom half, and then a vest that they tighten up. Then I'll put the character clothes, so the costume, over that. So I'd put those blue skinny jeans on top of the base layer and the harness, and then the shirt on. They'd cut holes in it so they could attach it to the actual wires, and then the suit goes on over the costume, over the jerk vest, over the base layer. And then that is what they try to find points to loop the wires on to those pick points through the suit now, so that I can actually carry everything once we're up in there. So really, it's a game of endurance. Everything that I did in that montage, I learned that day, probably about 10-15 minutes before we started rolling. That was a lot of fun. Definitely, I think one of my happy places is getting to learn new things. Learning the welding or cutting the heart out was a huge thing. Even just to know that I'm putting as much effort as I'm putting into it to get it right, but thinking this is something that Riri just excels at and does, and to be able to excel a little bit was okay, maybe I'm doing Riri proud. When we meet Riri in Wakanda Forever, I hope that folks remember that we're meeting a girl under duress. These are extreme circumstances and very much heightened situations for someone who, unlike, let's say, Okoye or Shuri, who are used to sort of otherworldly matters. This is a girl from the south side of Chicago going to school, trying to mind her business and get her degree. Now she's being told that she's responsible for this collision of two worlds. Once we get to see her again in Ironheart, we're getting to understand who Riri is when she's with her family, who Riri is if she's with her friends. We're getting to know the other layers of her that also create this human person, young Black girl in a supernatural circumstance, who also has a very natural, supernatural gift. I think that Chinaka Haj and I, we come together in Ironheart to show you a full-bodied human being. I'll say the biggest lesson that I've learned since playing Riri Williams is that you only have to focus on making the next best decision. I've learned how to be an advocate for my character. I've learned that advocating for your character is probably like priority number one, like in my role or in my job as an actor, because when I'm in that headspace of how can I do right by this person that I'm supposed to be playing, it helps so much to just focus on seeking the truth in each moment and just saying like one yes at a time or one no at a time, and just being able to like get the most honest answer out of what's in front of you in this moment.